When I first heard the news, I thought it was a cruel joke. My best friend Lila, married to my father. Even now, saying those words feels like swallowing glass. It had been years since I left home, years since I thought I'd outgrown the small-town gossip, the creaky floors of our old house, and the life I once shared with both of them. I went abroad chasing a dream, believing the people I loved most would remain just as I left them. But life doesn't wait for you to come home. It changes behind your back. And sometimes, it changes in ways that tear your heart right out of your chest. Before everything fell apart, life was simple, or maybe I just thought it was. My father, Daniel, was aqui a mim. A history teacher, soft-spoken, always smelling faintly of old paper and coffee. My best friend Lila was my other half. We grew up side by side, the kind of friendship where words weren't needed. She was there when my mother died, holding my hand at the funeral when I couldn't even look at the casket. When I decided to move abroad for a teaching opportunity, she threw me a small farewell dinner at my father's house. There was laughter that night, even though my heart ached. Dad made his famous lasagna, Lila brought a cheesecake, and we toasted to new beginnings. I remember her hugging me tightly at the door. Eu gostei de old she said, smiling through tears. I'll take care of your old man for you. I laughed, thinking it was a sweet joke. I didn't realize she meant it literally. Life abroad was busy. Between lesson plans, students, and the smell of chalk dust, I barely noticed the months slipping by. Lila and I would message sometimes, short texts, little updates. Your dad's doing well, she'd write. We had dinner last week. I'd reply with a quick emoji, grateful she was keeping him company. Sometimes, she'd even send photos, Dad smiling awkwardly, her hand always somewhere in the frame. I didn't think much of it. Not until the messages became less frequent. Her tone changed, shorter replies, vague excuses. Dad, too, grew distant when I called. Everything's fine, svetjart hedisi. Just busy. 2 years passed before I finally decided to visit home. I told no one. I wanted to surprise them both. I arrived one chilly November morning, suitcase in hand, heart pounding with excitement. But when I walked through that familiar gate, something felt wrong. The curtains were new, the garden trimmed differently. My mother's rosebush, gone. My chest tightened. Inside, I heard laughter. A woman's laug. For a second, I smiled. Maybe Dad had company. E walking quietly, the floor creaking under my feet, and what saw next froze me in place. Lila. My Lila. Sitting at the kitchen table, my mother's table, wearing a gold band on her finger. My father sat beside her, looking nervous, older, smaller somehow. When she turned and saw me standing there, her face drained of color. Sarah, she whispered. My voice barely came out. What is this? My father stood up, reaching for me. Sarah, let's talk. But I stepped back. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Are you married? I asked. Lila's lips trembled. It's not what you think. I laughed bitterly. Then what is it, Lila? You married my father. You were my best friend. The silence that followed was unbearable. Dad tried to explain, his voice breaking. It just happened, sweetheart. We were both lonely, and I cut him off. And what? You thought betrayal was the cure for loneliness. I looked at Lila, tears blurring my vision. You promised to take care of him, not have him. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away like her touch burned. I couldn't stay in that house another minute. I left without another word, the echo of their voices chasing me down the driveway. The weeks that followed were a blur of disbelief and fury. I stayed with an old colleague, trying to make sense of the senseless. I replayed every moment in my head, every secret smile between them, every time Lila had brushed off my calls. How long had it been going on before they married? How long had I been the fool? The betrayal cut deeper because it came from both sides, family and friendship. The two people who should have loved me the most had built a life behind my back. Eventually, I returned to confront them. I deserved answers. The house felt smaller, suffocating. Lila answered the door, her face pale. Sarah, please, she began. No, I said coldly. You had your chance to explain. My father came into the hallway. Sarah, please sit down. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't see my father.
E só a mãe rude choses inconfort over consciência.
I asked about Mom's things, about the house, about the will, and that's when I found out. They had changed it. Everything, my mother's home, her garden, her legacy, now in Lila's name. I felt something inside me snap. You erased her, I whispered. And me. That night, I packed my bags again, but this time, I didn't leave the country. I stayed in town, quietly, and began gathering documents, property records, marriage certificates, everything. I wasn't after revenge. I was after truth. When I found what I needed, I sent copies to my father with a single note. You taught me history, Dad. So here's some. Every lie has a date. A month later, I received a call. He wanted to meet. We sat in the same kitchen where everything had fallen apart. Lila wasn't there. His eyes were red-rimmed. We made a mistake, he said. She moved out. His voice cracked when he added, I thought I'd be happy. I'm not.
E said nothing.
He sighed.
E changed the will back. The house, it is yours.
I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something. But instead, I just whispered, it's too late for apologies, Dad. Some wounds don't close, they just scar. He nodded slowly. I know. But I hope someday, you'll forgive me. It took me years to even begin. But one spring morning, he came by again, holding a small plant, a rose bush. I thought you could use something that grows, he said softly. We sat quietly, two broken people trying to rebuild something from ashes. When he told me he'd ended things with Lila, that he realized what he'd done to Mom's memory, I saw tears in his eyes, genuine for once. You can't fix the past, I said, but you can be better now. After he left, I planted that rose bush in the backyard beside where Mom's ashes rested. He's learning, I whispered. Maybe I was, too. Years later, I turned the house into something new, a healing retreat for women like me. I called it Haven House. Every weekend, women would come, bringing their pain, their heartbreak, their untold stories. We'd plant something together in the garden, a symbol of starting again. Sometimes, I'd tell them my story. About betrayal, about forgiveness. About how peace doesn't come all at once, it comes in pieces. When Dad passed away, I sat by his bed, holding his frail hand. You have your mother's heart, he said before his last breath. I cried then, not for what we lost, but for what we finally understood. Now every evening, I sit on that porch watching the sunset melt into the horizon, the rose bush in full bloom. Sometimes, I swear I can still hear Mom humming through the wind. I smile softly. We're okay now, I whisper. And for the first time in years, I believe it. Because healing isn't a single act. It's choosing to stay soft when life hardens you. It's planting something where something once died. It's forgiving, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Would you have forgiven them? Or would you have walked away forever? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear that it's okay to start over. Until next time, this was Sarah's story. And thank you for listening.